So let's talk about the web browser and data, different things like that. This is a 3G device. It uses Verizon's EVDO Revision A network for 3G data. So let's go over to the speed test app and we'll take a look at the results that I've gotten. I'm in the Dallas area and I've tested this phone out in several different parts of the Dallas area. Times when I had a good signal, times when I didn't really have a good signal, maybe just 2 or 3 bars. And I've done some more tests besides these. Some of them got deleted. But anyway, we'll take a look at the ones that are here on the phone. This one is obviously done on a Wi-Fi network, so ignore that. But for the most part, 3G speeds have been good. You can see we have 1.7 megabits per second, 1.2, 1.8, 1.6. So 1.6, 1.7 megabits per second, that's pretty good for 3G, and that's about the average that I get in Dallas on Verizon 3G network. That's what I've gotten with other Verizon 3G smartphones. Now keep in mind that speeds are really going to just depend on coverage in your area. Even if you have full bars, you may get different speeds. They may be faster, they may be slower. It's very subjective. It just depends on coverage in your area, coverage in the spots that you're standing in. But for the most part, for me, 3G speeds have been pretty good. Let's go over to the web browser now, and I have PhoneDog loaded up. We'll refresh it. You can see I have a pretty good signal right now, and I'm not connected to Wi-Fi, so you'll get to see it load up. And then we'll also test out pinch to zoom. Now, the phone has an 800 megahertz Qualcomm processor powering it, and for the most part, when web browsing, I found that it's best to have plugins turned off, which is usually the best thing to do whenever you have a mid-range device. The processor usually just can't handle that much data, so I have plugins, they're turned off on demand. I can tap this ad if I really want to see it and it will load. Okay, so the web page is loaded up now, and we'll take a look at pinch to zoom, just kind of see how the processor handles it. You can see it's pretty smooth, not too bad. Again, keep in mind, like I said, I have all of the plugins, I have all flash content turned off, so that's going to greatly improve the speed. Whenever I had those plugins turned on, this was much slower and much choppier, so it does help to have them off. But when you do, you can see that the speeds are pretty good. Not too bad. That processor does a pretty good job. You can zoom in, load a page. Another thing, going back to the small display, 3.2 inches, another area where you'll really notice that is with web browsing. Because the display is too small, you have to zoom in a lot, kind of get everything to fit onto, render onto the small display. That's one area where you really notice it, but again, it's easy to zoom in, so it's not really that big of a deal. But you'll notice that, of course, this page is still loading. I'll just stop it from loading. You'll notice that even though I'm zoomed in, it's still taking the processor a while to actually render the page and bring all the text down to fit in this window, which is what it should do. Usually when you zoom in, it'll automatically fit the text to the window, but you can see it's taking a while to do that. So, pinch to zoom is pretty good, but still rendering the page kind of takes a while. But overall, web browsing, was great, was decent enough. 3G speeds were pretty good, and that 800 megahertz processor, it does a pretty good job with everyday tasks. There were some times when, yes, there is going to be some lag, maybe a couple hang-ups here and there. Just about what you expect with a mid-range device. It's a budget device, so keep that in mind. Now, lastly, one more note on data. This phone can act as a 3G mobile hotspot for up to 5 devices. Now, keep an eye on the data usage if you don't have an unlimited data plan, because it can kind of get away from you, but it is nice to have that feature. Again, that's something that you don't see in a lot of mid-range devices, but it's nice to have. Okay, so let's move over to the back of the phone. And we'll talk about the camera, we'll talk about the battery, memory, different things like that. The phone has a 3.2 megapixel camera. It also has the camera does have an autofocus, no flash as you can see, and it captures video. Now it's just VGA quality video, so not very good at all, but it does still capture video. It does not have a front-facing camera, so rear-facing camera only. Now picture quality has been okay. Keep in mind that it is a 3 megapixel camera, so don't expect pictures to be that great, but it's still pretty decent for far away shots. Now close-up shots where it has to capture a lot of detail, it's going to have some trouble with that. But if you have a shot that's from a couple of feet away or more, then it should be okay. You can see there's a picture of outside, you know, the trees, and then you have the sidewalk and some ivy down there, you know, and it looks pretty good. However, if we zoom in, you can automatically see it gets very blurry, very grainy. You may or may not be able to see that on camera, but you can see it's just very blurry and grainy. So the 3-megapixel camera does its job if you're sending it, you know, to a friend just as an MMS, or if you're uploading it to Twitter, you know, it's fine for that. But overall, you know, not spectacular picture quality. I was kind of disappointed, but then at the same time, you have to consider what you're paying for. You have to consider the quality of the phone. So obviously the lens quality is also not going to be that great. So for the most part, it lived up to my expectations. Now let's take the battery cover off, and we'll take a look at the battery. Now it ships with a 1540 milliamp hour battery. And you know, battery life, it's one of those things like data. It's very subjective. I can tell you my results, but a lot of it is just going to depend on the way that you use your phone in everyday life. For me, I was able to get through a full day, at least until the evening or until nighttime, you know, about 9 p.m. I did have to charge it every night. And, you know, Android just, you know, as an operating system on any phone, it tends to drain the battery pretty quickly. So you definitely will have to charge your phone every night. Beyond that, again, it just depends on the way that you use your phone. I'm going to say, based on my tests, that you probably will be able to get through a full work day or a full school day, like say, you know, 9 to 5, or, you know, a schedule like that. You should at least be able to make it until the evening if you don't use it too heavily. I mean, if you're gaming on it constantly, then it's going to go dead within, you know, probably halfway into the day. But for the most part, I'd say you make it, you know, until the evening. You may want to carry a charger with you just in case, but you will definitely have to charge it every night. Now on the left side, or excuse me, the right side here, is the micro SD card slot, and it ships with a 2 gig card. I'll take it out so you can take a look at it. Ships with a 2 gig card, and then it supports up to 32 gigs of additional memory with this card slot. The nice thing about it is that you don't have to remove the battery in order to get to the card slot. However, you do still have to remove the battery cover, which isn't a big deal, except, you know, considering the slot is already on the side of the phone, they easily could have just added a little incision here, but, you know, not too big of a deal. Now the phone itself has 150 megs of user available memory. Now it has more than that, but a lot of that's taken up, you know, by the operating system itself and just other apps that are pre-installed that you can't delete. So available to you is 150 megs, plus you have the 2 gig card, and then you can expand it up to 32 gigs. So memory should be fine. Okay, so that's pretty much it, guys, with the LG Enlighten from Verizon Wireless. Overall, my thoughts are that it's a decent budget mid-range Android device. You know, keep in mind that it is, you know, like I said, a budget device, so, you know, things aren't going to be perfect. For the most part, the processor did a fine job with keeping up with everything. There are a couple of hang-ups here and there, but, you know, everything was done with, you know, minimal lag or perhaps no lag. 3G speeds have been great, at least in my area, for Verizon. And, you know, my only gripe is really just the keyboard. I think this is the one thing that really turns me off from the phone. Now, everyone's different. You know, the things that bother me may not bother you, and you can go to a Verizon store and try out the keyboard and see what you think. But for me, the two things just kind of really frustrated me. So if you're looking at another phone, I would recommend, you know, maybe getting something else if you are a heavy texter. But again, you know, you can try out the keyboard and decide for yourself. But overall, pretty decent phone. Check it out at Verizon Wireless. Thanks, guys, for watching this review. If you have any questions about the Enlighten or any other phone that I've reviewed, you can send me a message on Twitter. My screen name is It's My Job to Know, and just send me a message. I'll try to answer any questions if I can. But thanks, guys, for watching this review. I'm Sydney from PhoneDog.com, and I'll see you guys later. Bye.